What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Today's Monday, which of course is the time where I go through my reaction to the championship weekend games. Always comment your views in the comments down below and let me know your thoughts of the championship games. If you got a correct score, your comment will be on the screen right now. Well done, a couple of you did get a few correct scores. A pretty unpredictable week. I'm in my worst run of form so far. This is the second week running. I have got 0 correct scores in the championship or the Premier League. And following this is what the Lexus Hall of Fame looks like. I'm still first place, but only just. It's like Leicester clinching on to the top 4 from last season. I've got to up my game as soon as possible. Luckily for me, I do have a chance to get some midweek games right. And that will be what we'll do for the second half of the video. We'll predict the midweek games as well. Also, what an unbelievable transfer deadline day we had. We had 36 ins and outs from the EFL in the final day of the championship. Some making their debut this weekend. Some have had an incredible start. Some have had a pretty bad start, to tell you all truth. But I will be reviewing all the championship transfers some point this week and grading them. If you guys like what you see, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. If you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. If you're new around here, my name's Alex. I do football content and championship content as often as I can. But if you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. On 291 as of recording of this video, it would be so appreciative if you could push me to 300 subscribers as soon as we can. My end goal is to get 1,000 subscribers before the season ends. 5 games down, 41 left to go. And to increase the popularity, please share my video. It would really make my day. Without any further ado, let's review these championship games. So start off with Friday's game, where it was Watford picking up all 3 points with a 1-0 away victory. Watford did have 2 penalty appeals, which I was a bit shocked why they weren't given. If VAR was in the championship, I would assume that Watford would have had 2 penalties. There was a foul on Tom Cleverley in the end of the first half, and there was a handball call in the second half, but I understand that the referee may not have seen that. But Watford did eventually get their goal from João Pedro. What an unbelievable talent he is. 19 years of age, just outside the box, rifles the ball in the top right corner. Marshall, who kept 3 clean sheets for Scotland, you know, he couldn't keep that one out. That was an unbelievable strike, and that was the winning goal. Bit smash and grab probably, because I don't think Watford were too convincing, but I do think they coped with Derby quite well. I think Derby should have done better with the chances though. Wayne Rooney had 2 big chances. One way was put through 1-on-1 and he took his shot way too soon wide of the post. And also another free kick, but he shot it just over the goal. It's a disappointing defeat for Derby, where I felt they may have turned a corner against Norwich, but I think it is back to square one. I think Watford will be happy with their start. They've now got to face against Blackburn. I think that'll be a cracking game. So now to Saturday's games. We'll start off with a boring 0-0 draw, which happened between Bournemouth and Crystal Rangers. Very disappointing in a way, because I thought that this was going to be one of the games where we were going to see flashes of quality and attacking quality in terms of goals being scored. But Bournemouth were very surprisingly flat and uninspiring. If anything, Queen's Park Rangers were the more likely team to score. Brighter side Samuel looked the brightest player out of the whole pitch, in my opinion. Begovic made 2 pretty good saves, but apart from that, the Queen's Park Rangers keeper practically had nothing to save. Bournemouth didn't have a shot on target at home, which is embarrassing, really. Solanke had 2 pretty notable chances where both of them went wide, where one of them he hit the side netting for, but apart from that, very, very poor game overall. Stats were a little bit close, but I was very surprised by how little attacking threat both of these teams had. Both, I think, will be wanting a recovery midweek for sure. And then we saw Barnsley literally scrape a 2-2 draw, and I was thinking this was going to be the game that I got my 1 correct score, but in the 12th minute of added time, Corley Woodrow scores a penalty. I won't lie, I was heartbroken that I didn't get this score prediction right at all, but looking at the highlights, it was richly deserved. Barnsley, I have to say, really set out the traps like from minute 1. They were really, really good. They already tested O'Leary in goal, where Bentley was absent in goal. A corner came in from that resulting save. Then it was Healy who won the header, getting past Taylor Moore to get a header into the goal that made it 1-0 to Barnsley. Although Bristol City have really improved this season. They're actually showing brilliant responses to falling behind, which is something I thought they were a little bit lacking under Lee Johnson, you know, a little bit negative-minded. They equalised through Jack Hunt. It was some brilliant play by Naki Wells, forcing a double save from Walton. It's a brilliant double save. Brilliant defensive play on Jamie Patterson, failing to get a shot off. Chris Martin managed to give the ball then to Jack Hunt. I think his shot did come off a deflection, but it wrong-footed Walton. That made it 1-1. And then from another deflection, literally within minutes from the equaliser, it was Tyreek Backinson just outside the box. Took 1 deflection, wrong-footing Walton, and that made it 2-1 Bristol City. And I thought this was going to be game, set, and match, because after that goal, the game kind of sizzled out a little bit. But following a long looping ball from Barnsley, Callum O'Dowda and Michael Solbauer clash heads, and that is how Barnsley won their penalty in the 5th minute of added time, and this resulted with Sol Bauer having to be taken off, and that was why it was such a long stoppage time. Eventually in the 12th minute of stoppage time, Woodrow stepped up and that made it 2-2. Disappointing for Bristol City to throw it away just like that. As with Barnsley, they showed incredible fight to get back into their position. I do think under their assistant manager in Adam Murray, I actually think Barnsley are showing a little bit more fight. Barnsley are away to Stoke, which I think may be a really tight game, and Bristol City are home to Middlesbrough, which I think will also be tough as well. So both got really tough games in midweek. Then we saw Sheffield Wednesday take a huge step of getting rid of their points deduction with a 1-0 away victory to Birmingham. Gary Monk getting revenge against his former club. And I did say that Birmingham looking like a team that can defend quite well, but if they can't defend well, you know, they need to make sure they score goals. And scoring goals has already been a huge doubt of mine. It really showed how much they need Lukas Djukovic. He was announced ill, and actually that's his first championship absence in 31 months, believe it or not. Meaning Scott Hogan had to kind of take over, and unfortunately he just didn't have the same quality. He did have a head in the second half where I think he should have done better. But Sheffield Wednesday deserved the win. They had the better chances. Adam Reach with a powerful shot, which was well saved by Neil Etheridge. Barry Bannon had another great shot as well, which was saved by Etheridge, but from the following corner, Adam Clayton looked to a foul Callum Patterson. A bit of a soft penalty, probably, so maybe Birmingham were a little bit unlucky with that. Barry Bannon stepped up. Neil Etheridge, who saved a couple of penalties before, went the right way, but unfortunately, it was too far into the corner for him to save it. That was the only goal for Sheffield Wednesday. They'll be pleased with this win. They're now minus 4 points. Only 6 points theoretically behind Barnsley, who are 22nd place right now. In terms of Birmingham, they definitely need to try and score more goals if they want to progress up the table for me. And then we saw Nottingham Forest pick up their first win of the season under their first game under Chris Hughton with a 1-0 away victory against high-scoring Blackburn, which once again, this is the second match in a row where Blackburn have not scored a goal. What's happened with Blackburn Rovers? They were scoring 11 goals in their first 3 games, and now all of a sudden they've scored no goals in 2. I don't know what's happened with Blackburn's goal scoring form at the moment. I don't think it's from significant injuries. I think teams may be figuring out what Blackburn are about this season. I do say I think Nottingham Forest did deserve a win. I think Forest had better chances. When Sammy Obi hit the post, which I think was a chance that literally just sparked the game to life, I think it gave Nottingham Forest that extra drive to go for it, and they were really gunning forward. Blackburn rarely looks threatening going forward, in my opinion. But then eventually in the 90th minute, Joe Lolly charges forward, takes a wicked deflection, so unlucky for Blackburn's part, but that deflection carries the ball into the net, and that is how Nottingham Forest get their first 1-0 win. A big smash and grab, but they definitely won't care. Nottingham Forest needed those points as soon as they can. Their first win of the season, their first points on the board, and their first points under their first game under Chris Hughton. I think there'll be a lot of optimism around him now. I just really highly rate Chris Hughton, especially as a championship manager. As with Blackburn right now, they definitely need to try and regain that confidence in the start of the season, then I think Blackburn could be a dark horse. And then Brentford got a very convincing 2-0 victory over Coventry, although I do think the scoreline's a little bit harsh on Coventry because they did have plenty chances. One from Matt Godden hitting the crossbar in the second half, and those were just one of like 3 or 4 big chances Coventry had, and I think in any other day they'll be taking those chances. But it just goes to show the difference between League One and the Championship. If you take your chances, you win games, but if you don't, you lose them. And that's exactly what Ivan Toney did. He stepped up in this game, and this was the first time I felt comfortable Brentford going forward, working with Sergi Canos, Brian Mbeumo, and following they have lost side Ben Rama. Ivan Toney's had to step up now, and following that, I actually think he's really matured in a way. He's got into the role. He needed this international break to get his mind in the right place with Brentford, and this was the first perfect performance I've seen. I think he'll be getting my player of the weekend, scoring a fantastic brace. The first goal was a great looping ball by Mbeumo, getting a touch on it, a very clinical instinct of a move that made it 1-0. Then the second goal, a couple minutes later, came from a long ball from Sergi Canos. He won the head above everyone, and that made it 2-0. As I say, Coventry shouldn't be too disappointing. They did have chances, but it would concern me for how few goals they're scoring. Coventry are home to Swansea, which I think will be quite a tough game for them. Brentford away to Sheffield Wednesday, which I think will also be a tough game. I'll be intrigued to see if any of them can win their midweek games following both performances in this game. And then we saw Stoke continuing their great away form with a 2-0 victory. Nathan Jones unfortunately couldn't get revenge against his former club with his Luton side losing at home for the first time this season, which is a bit of a surprise. How did the game go? Well, Stoke are just really good setting up in a defensive performance. They've still not conceded a goal away from home at the moment, and it goes to show Stoke away from home are just very well organised. They remind me of Cardiff, which will be another side. I'll be comparing this later on. But Stoke right now, they had the better chances, limited Luton, who had been scoring plenty of goals, to barely any opportunities. Whilst it was a very scrappy and very boring first half, the second half was when the game came to life. Tyrese Campbell looping a fantastic ball into the box, and then Stephen Fletcher won the ball with a header, and that made it 1-0 to Stoke. And with 9 minutes later, Stoke doubled their lead, denying Luton any possible chance of getting back into the game. It was a bit of a goalmouth scrap in the box, but Powell, just inside the box, managed to have a powerful shot, and his shot was deflected into the net, and that made it 2-0 to Stoke. Luton did have a couple of chances. Davies made one notable save, but apart from that, Luton looked very, very flat going forward. And I do fear that maybe Luton may be going on a little bit of a slump, but this is only after one game though. And I feel like the good thing about Nathan Jones, he could definitely pick his team up. If they could consistently perform at that level, Stoke can have a really good season, but you just don't know what side you're going to get out of Stoke, because they were completely underwhelming a couple of games ago. But if they keep putting performances like this, then I think Stoke can have a good season. Just talked about Bristol City losing their 100% start. The other team who had a 100% start was Reading, but they lost that following a 0-0 draw with Middlesbrough. And honestly, not a great game, in all honesty. But out of chances, I think Middlesbrough did have the better opportunities. Bettinelli was barely called for. I mean, there was about a 10-minute period in the second half where we needed to make 1 or 2 saves from Ajaria and keep his eye on Lucas João. But apart from that, Bettinelli was kept very, very quiet. Cabral was the one that made a couple more saves. There was a header one from a corner where he tipped over the bar. Johnny Howson did have the ball in the net, but he was offside very, very marginally. If that had gone in and he was onside, that would have been a correct score for me, and I would have got a correct score this weekend. But unfortunately, that's not how the game works. But overall with this game, I say both defences were on top of this game. Both defences were very, very tight, tough to break down, and both will have to go again in midweek. And then one of the most entertaining games this weekend, and also with FIFA's games as well, was Rotherham and Norwich, which ended a 2-1 away victory to Norwich. Now, Rotherham would be kicking themselves that they didn't get any more goals out of it, because their first half performance was outstanding. They started the game very, very well. Freddie Ladapo getting the goal. It was a bit of a mistake from Tim Krul, you know, a very poor goal kick. And then Ladapo managing to muscle the Norwich defence. He got through 1-on-1, beating Tim Krul. That made it 1-0. But what would really sting for Rotherham was the fact that they won a penalty. It was a very convincing penalty as well. A very, very poor challenge. Ladapo stepped up, but Tim Krul, who we know about his penalty records, he saved 2 penalties against Manchester United in the Premier League. He saved his other one against Rotherham in the Championship. It was a fantastic save as well. And this gave Norwich a little bit of a lifeline. Norwich so far, I mean, I'm seeing what their problem is really. They play beautiful football, don't get me wrong. We saw this even in the Premier League. But if teams sit back and just absorb it and they're not toe-to-toe with you, Norwich really, really struggle. And the thing is with Rotherham, they kind of went toe-to-toe trying to play the same football as Norwich. And Norwich will just play it at the park. And that's exactly what Norwich did against Rotherham. Their equaliser, for example, fantastic play down the middle. About 8 passes getting into that goal. A great through ball by Buendia to find Max Aarons, running in the right-hand side. And there's such a teasing ball, trying to find Jordan Hugill. But it came in by an own goal by Wycombe for Rotherham. That made it 1-1. And honestly, after that equaliser, any team could have won it. Rotherham had a couple of chances. Blackburn made 2 fantastic saves. And we thought maybe this was going to be a draw, but no. Joe Saffoon, making his debut for Rotherham, concedes a penalty in the 95th minute by fouling Buendia. He's one that has had a nightmare start to his Rotherham career. But Jordan Hugill stepped up, he scored, and that made it 2-1 to Norwich. Rotherham weren't poor, but they definitely need to make sure that they have better game management. As in Norwich, they definitely play some beautiful football, but they definitely need to be more adaptable. If they could be more adaptable, I say Norwich can definitely go toe-to-toe with this league. And another team who've lost their unbeaten run is Swansea. They lose 2-1, perhaps surprisingly, to Huddersfield Town. It was quite a one-sided first half. I would say Swansea played the better football for pretty much most of the game. But what Huddersfield did really, really well with, they still played their high pressing, high attacking football, but they were very drilled defensively. They, surprisingly maybe, have got the lead. It was from a short corner. It was a shot that came in from outside the box, and then Harry Toffolo in the right place and the right time managed to get enough of a touch to get it past Freddie Woodman. That made it 1-0 to Huddersfield Town. Unfortunately for them, 10 minutes later, they conceded a penalty. For me, a very dubious decision following that Morgan Gibbs-White were actually going to miss the ball off target anyway. Probably a bit unfortunate for Ben Hamer's perspective. Also, the penalty from Ayew, bit dubious as well, bit controversial, but he scored it and that made it 1-1. But Huddersfield dug deep very well. Swansea could have scored 3 or 4 goals. Jamal Lowe had 2 big chances. Gibbs White had 1. Ayew should have scored another 1. But they just didn't take their chances. And at another day, Swansea would have taken these chances. But those missed chances gave Huddersfield a chance to get back into it. And indeed they did. Josh Koroma scoring his first goal for Huddersfield Town just outside the box. A fantastic shot, finding the bottom left corner past the reach of Willian. That made it 2-1. Huddersfield are doing quite well at the moment. Unbeaten in 3 games, 2 wins out of 3. Unbelievable, really. A great turnaround from especially their poor start with 2 defeats on the spin from Huddersfield Town. As with Swansea, they definitely have a great attacking squad, and with the transfers they've got in, despite the players they've lost, including like likes of Joe Rodon, which could affect their defensive part of the game, they've got enough attacking players for me that Swansea could still have a good season. So I don't think it ended well for Swansea, but it was a bit of a poor result for them. And then Wycombe just cannot seem to win for no love or money right now, despite being gifted a goal, because Millwall still found a way to win by 2-1. Their first goal in the 369th minute of their Championship football history. They finally got it by Bartosz Białkowski, thinking that he was Ronaldo on the ball. He got tackled by Scott Kashke and his interception managed to get into the net. A very poor goal for Bartosz Białkowski, probably the most comedic goal of the weekend, I'll tell you that. But following going from behind, Millwall are very experienced in trying to get back into the game, and they really turned the screw, testing this Wycombe side. And eventually in the second half, they managed to get their goals. 3 minutes into the second half, they won a penalty. Very poor marking for Wycombe's part and very poor foul. Jed Wallace stepped up. He scored past Allsop that made it 1-1. Wycombe would have felt they should have got the lead. They managed to score from a corner, a bit of a bizarre goal. But apparently it was disallowed from a shirt pull. Now, I've seen the replay about 3 times, and I'm struggling to see where the shirt pull was or what the referees were meaning about. Apparently it's a foul on the goalkeeper. I mean, I personally didn't think the goalkeeper was fouled, so I say that was a little bit unfortunate for Wycombe's part. But following this scare, Millwall stepped up tremendously. Great counter-attack down the right. Great looping ball, and Ryan Leonard right in the centre of the D. Very poor for Wycombe that no one closed him down, but he scored a terrific volley, and that made it 2-1 to Millwall. It's a great win from Millwall. Definitely weren't convincing, but they still found a result, and that's what matters. Wycombe, they will be happy that they scored their first goal, but it's still frustrating that they still not won. It's 5 defeats in a row. They need to find their first win ASAP. If they don't, then this will be a very long season for Wycombe. And then the final result to go over is yesterday's game, where Cardiff won by 1-0. And I said in my score predictions that Cardiff looked so good away from home, so maybe I should back them. But why did I not bloody back them? I'm such an idiot sometimes. I'm surprised no one says it more often. But likewise, Cardiff did prove I should have backed them, because defensively they were so good. Preston didn't look threatening at all. And we've been saying this problem about Preston, that they just cannot look threatening going forward. I think what eluded me to their draw was how good Preston were against Brentford, but at home they still not scored a home goal, and the longer this goes on, you know, it's going to really affect their season. It was very boring first half, not many chances going through from either side really. I think Preston having a couple of more than Cardiff. In the second half, Cardiff got the lead pretty quickly from the second half actually. It was Shea Ojo with the goal. Brilliant counter-attacking football, and that is what's so good about Cardiff. Defensively, they're so tight and they're devastating going forward. Kiefer Moore started it, gave it to Shea Ojo on the right. He charged forward with pace, beat Declan Rudd in his near post, and that made it 1-0. One signing I was really excited to see play for Cardiff actually was Harry Wilson. He's stepped on since Greg Cunningham, the former Preston player, of course, managed to pick up an injury in the first half. He at times looked dangerous, but ultimately he wasn't the big influencer in this game, in my opinion. This is not the sort of game I think will suit Harry Wilson, but I'm happy he's joined a Welsh side as well. I did anticipate he would either join Swansea or Cardiff following his Welsh connection, and I was a bit right on that, so I'm a bit gassed about that. As with Preston right now, very disappointing. Once again, their home form is really letting them down this season. They've still not scored at home, and they definitely need to do so as soon as they can. As for Cardiff, if they can repeat their form away to home, I think Cardiff can have a fantastic season. So that wraps up all the results. Before I go through my player for weekend and all of that, here is the Championship table. Bristol City and Reading still first place and still unbeaten with 13 points each. Bournemouth still unbeaten with 11, but Swansea and Watford and Luton, the rest of the playoff places, suffering a defeat this season. Millwall just behind the playoff place following their fantastic win. Stoke, Blackburn, Brentford, Norwich and Cardiff make up the top half of the table. And then in the bottom half of the table, Huddersfield pushing up there right now following their great form. Crystal Rangers to Middlesbrough, Birmingham dropped down to 16th, Rotherham 17th now. Preston 18th, it's not been a great start for them. 19th Coventry, Forest following that win, they're now out of the bottom 3 on 3 points now. Derby, also their East Midlands rivalry, they actually have to play next weekend, which I'm so excited to predict. Both of them on 3 points, 20th and 21st respectively. And the bottom 3, of course, we've got Barnsley, who are still looking for their first win, Wycombe, who are looking for their first win, and Sheffield Wednesday, who are on -4 points, but are within 6 realistic points from Barnsley. This season's already proving to be quite exciting. So before we predict the midweek games, I'm going to go through my championship rewards. So we'll start off with goal of the weekend. I mean, I wanted to give my goal of the weekend to Scott Cashkay, following how special it is for Wycombe to get their first goal despite how scrappiness it could be. But I felt it would have been so disrespectful to just undermine João Pedro's top range strike. If he hadn't have done that, then I would have picked my goal of the weekend to be Scott Cashkay. But for me, João Pedro gets my goal of the weekend. Unbelievable talent he is. My result of the weekend, I'm going to give it to Huddersfield getting a 2-1 away victory. It was a result that really came out of the blue. A fantastic performance by Huddersfield and the Terriers. Unbelievable. That's all I can really say this performance. I'm going to say my result of the weekend, 2-1 to Huddersfield. And then the player of the weekend. Really, really tough, but I did mention this already. I'm going to give it to Ivan Toney. He really stepped up this weekend, showing glimpses that he can lead the line for Brentford. And I think Brentford are now very, very happy that they've now got him in the squad for scoring a brace. So my player of the weekend is Ivan Toney. So before we end the video, now we've got to go through the midweek fixtures. So hopefully I can get some correct scores to increase my lead in the Lexus Hall of Fame again. So start with Tuesday's games. Nottingham Forest versus Rotherham. I'm going to say Nottingham Forest get a 2-0 victory. I think defensively they're going to be so tough to break down despite how positive Rotherham are with their football. Millwall Luton I think will be tight. I'm thinking 1-1 though. I think both these sides are pretty close in ability at the moment. Bristol City and Middlesbrough I think was really, really tight. I'm going to edge Bristol City for a 2-1 victory. I think they've got just enough firepower to withstand them. Huddersfield and Derby. I think in terms of performances, I'll back Huddersfield, but I'm going to predict a draw. Huddersfield don't have a strong record against Derby, and also Derby are capable of a shock result now and again, but I'm going to even it out and say 1-1. Norwich and Birmingham is tight. I'm going to say Norwich get a 1-0 victory. Norwich have got plenty of goals within them, that's for sure, but because Birmingham are so tight at the back, I don't think it'll be many goals, so I'm going to say 1-0. Coventry and Swansea, I think will also be close. I think it'll be 2-1, but to which side? I'm going to compromise it to be Swansea because I just have more confidence in them at the moment. I'm going to say 2-1 to Swansea. Reading and Wycombe. Oh, I was hoping Wycombe may have a better game, but I think Reading will start getting 3 points again. I'm going to say 2-0 to Reading. And then to Wednesday's game, Stoke and Barnsley. God, this is tough. I was thinking 0-0, but I'm actually going to back Barnsley for a shock 1-0 away victory. I can just see it. I think Adam Murray can definitely do a masterclass here. Watford, Blackburn, I think once again, I don't think there'll be many goals this one. I'm going to say 1-0 Watford. I'll back them for a win. Sheffield Wednesday and Brentford. I'm going to say 2-2 in this one. I think both sides will be going for it. Sheffield Wednesday trying to get their points deduction and Brentford just having so much firepower. Crystal Rangers and Preston. Now, Crystal Rangers have a very poor record against Preston despite doing a double over them last season. I'm going to say Preston get a 2-1 victory because Preston have looked really good away from home. But if they lose this game, then I would say Preston are under pressure and Alex Neil will definitely need to be producing results ASAP. And Cardiff and Bournemouth, God, this is tough. I'm going to edge Bournemouth for a 1-0 victory. Very close though. But that wraps it up for today's video. If you guys enjoyed what you saw, please make sure you do give this video a like. It would be tremendously appreciated. If you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. It would really, really make my day. Let's push for 300 subscribers as soon as we can. And to do that, please share my video and my channel to as many people as you can. All of that would really, really make my day. But that wraps it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary. If you saw the end of this video. And as always, take care, guys.